What's one thing you wish more people knew about EDC as a hobby? We're not all crazy, okay? That's mainly it, because a lot of people will see a picture of an EDC from Reddit or Instagram or whatever, and then they're immediately gonna judge that person based on what they see and what little they understand about these objects in front of them. Everydaycarry.com is no longer owned by and supported by Bridge.
Things ended kind of abruptly early in April. We're kind of floored by that. And
what are some good EDC to uncentralize from your phone? I think this is a really interesting question. I think a lot of millennials and younger don't even like calling on the phone anymore. So they'll use their phone for everything else, but they need to have it. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Carried Away, the once weekly podcast where we nerd it out about all things EDC gear and maybe try to teach you a thing or two while we're at it. I'm Bernard, the founder of everydaycarry.com, and I'm joined by our editor, Mikey.
Hello. Welcome back. It's been a long 2 months.
Yeah. So if you're new to the show, welcome. Here we talk about the latest in EDC gear, answer questions from the community, and review pocket dump submissions from our viewers. And if you've listened before, we just wanted to say thank you so much for the support and for your patience and understanding. And just a quick reminder, yes, and concern. And just a quick reminder to give a thumbs up, to like the video, and subscribe if you haven't already, as it really helps the channel. So we're a bit rusty here. Mikey, why don't we start once again with a pocket check? So hopefully things are fresh now. It's been several months since our last
I know,
check.
right? I have added very, very few things to the EDC just as a result of the reason why we've been gone. But the really, really important thing is I've been talking about this for like 10 episodes or so now over the past year. I had reached out to Peter Atwood on the recommendation of a couple of people.
Really?
Namely Mike Espinelli from our community, a good friend of ours. And turns out I just had to email him all along, ask him if he had any lefty of his tools around.
Yeah.
And here we go. He sent
sick.
me. I was able to buy fresh new lefty tools.
Are they new or like new old stock?
No, they're new. They're brand new.
He makes them still?
He still makes them. That's the thing.
That's sick.
Yeah. So
I'm happy to hear that.
I was a member of the buy and sell community. I sent out a ISO looking for some lefty products, and one of them just messaged me out of one of the people in the community told me, dude, just email him, dude. He probably has some lefties laying around. He'd be happy to sell you. I emailed him. He answers within like 2 hours. He sends me a photo of everything that he has in stock. And I'm like, I'll take 3 of those. Good for the rest of my life. Big fan.
Yeah.
Been wanting to buy your stuff for like 10 years. And yeah, send me immediately. And then, yeah, so I'm still trying to figure out how I'm going to put this in a keychain, or how I'm going to, maybe I'll put one of these in a sheath or something. But this was the most important thing of the past 2 months. Really, really excited about this. 2 of these are stainless steel, probably going to be the users. This one's titanium. I'd probably put that in a sheath.
Is it grade 5?
Yeah, grade 5.
Okay, sick.
So, and they were fairly affordable. What the secondary market won't tell you, it's like the secondary market is kind of double. He sells these for like $85 and $65, $75, extremely reasonable. For something that is very, very expensive in the secondary, because they always sell out, so they become kind of collector's items instantly. So yeah, really, really happy to finally get a chat to Peter Atwood. Finally own one of his tools. I've been wanting one of these for so long, and I finally have it. I have 3 of them. Good to last me hopefully the rest of my life. And that is literally one of the only additions because of the hecticness of the past few months. But I'll throw it over to you first. Anything new with you?
New, not really, but just the freedom. I realized I'm not even wearing a watch.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's crazy. I'm wearing my Apple Watch.
This is how rusty we are.
Yeah, dude.
We're just gonna be fumbling through this.
Because I was like setting up the cameras and all that stuff, and like, I have to get behind my desk and whatever. It's like, oh, I don't want to like bang my watch while how people are like, oh, every scratch tells a story. I don't want that to be the story. That's like quite a stupid story for me. So no, I'm not even wearing the watch, but maybe I'll get some B-roll on. But I have been wearing a 34 millimeter Crador JDM from Japan, and that's a
Nice.
quartz with a date window, and it's really beautiful. And I got it a while ago, and I used to think because it wasn't as expensive, I got it like for around $500 from Yahoo Japan a while ago.
Mhm.
It retails
Is that
around.
the is that the one with the blue second hand that you showed
Yeah, yeah,
before?
yeah. It's got the heat blued hands. Really
Nice,
cool.
nice, nice.
But I used to think like, it's not as good because it didn't cost as much and it retails for like, who cares? Who cares? It's like comfortable and small and very super accurate and no fuss, so I don't have to think about it. And it's like summertime now, so it's like a good time to bust it out. So I've been
Mm.
using that. Um, for knives, like the only two that I have like out right now are basically the same knife. They're both the enthusiast CJRB Pyrite in
Nice.
titanium. This is the one I bought to replace this one that I thought I lost. I don't know if I showed this on the podcast or not, but I did find this. It was under my bed.
Yeah, yeah. I think
When I
you
was
that was
yeah,
and
okay,
I think
okay.
you told that story in the last
That may have
episode.
been the very last thing. Yeah, so nothing new since then on the knife front. And
Mhm.
then I've been listening to music again, so I just like bust out the old Android MP3 player with the Sony things. I think I also showed this in the last episode too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But maybe the change, biggest significant change is my wallet situation. I'm
Uh-huh.
back to the Arc'teryx Valence
Mm.
casing card wallet. This came out 2017. I think
I
I got
remember.
one of
You're
the
really
first models, yeah, for sale,
yeah.
because at the time I worked at the boutique that sold these, and I kind of put them out as merchandise and I sold it to myself as the first one. I don't know how like allowed that is, but I definitely
Who
secured
cares?
one for my who cares. I
Who
got
cares?
one for myself, and I hadn't been
Employee
using this for a long
perks.
time, but it is probably my favorite leather wallet of all time because the form
Mm.
factor is so small, and it's especially developed Horween leather, so it's like hard wearing. I actually soaked this with my jeans, and our friend Mike that you're talking about told me, "Oh yeah, I did the same thing. I like fell into the pool with my. He has the same wallet as me. So then he told me, just like recondition it, it'll be fine." And sure enough, it is. So have this back in the pocket, and I'm
I
looking at my
think
keychain, and I also have this guy. My friend just gave one to me. It's like just like a plushy keychain thing that he got when he was traveling, and it reminds me of my late dog.
yeah,
So
yeah.
using that, it's a big trend apparently. Putting stuff like
Oh
plushies on
yeah.
your
The
stuff.
the
You
the
told me about
Labubu
that.
trend, yeah, the Labubu
Yeah,
trend has come and gone here. We've moved on
yeah,
to
yeah,
other
yeah.
things. You know what I've noticed? Just sidetrack.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that I didn't even realize was a thing. You know, have you ever seen those gotcha pouches that people attach on their bags? So it's like a
Not the
clear,
pouch.
it's a clear pouch. I'll send a photo to our editor so we can have some B-roll. But basically, it's a clear pouch like you would find like a small makeup kit, and then people store like combinations of gotcha stuff inside, so you can display sets of it, and
Okay,
then you
what's a
attach that.
gotcha for people that are not familiar with like
Um,
East Asian gambling
yeah.
culture?
So it's you insert a coin, you flip a knob,
It's
and
a
then
vending machine.
it's a vending machine that has capsule toys. And then it's literally in Japan, there's gotcha capsule toys for everything, for literally everything. I've
Yeah.
seen
So here in
gotcha,
the
yeah,
States, you might remember like growing up, there's like the gumball machine, and then next to it is like the sticky hand thing. It's basically a small toy that you pay
yeah,
like a quarter for, except
yeah,
we pay a lot more for gotcha stuff in Japan,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, so apparently there's this whole thing. I saw this YouTube channel who had like it was their main thing, putting together these collections of they buy specific gotchas pouches that are kind of like clear makeup kits. They put the gotchas like they organize it in such a way so that it looks it's kind of aesthetic, and then it's all thematic and grouped and stylized and everything. And you attach that whole thing to your bag. So where that plushie would be like a clear plastic case with
Uh
on
huh.
display a bunch of completed sets or thematic sets of gotcha loot, basically. So it's like the meta next level attachment of
That
random
is
stuff attached to your bags. Yeah.
like final boss level
Exactly.
consumerism. That is crazy because you're taking like the gambling aspect combined with the collector aspect, but
Yes. And
then
then
with the
showing it off.
flex. Yeah.
Yes.
Man, Asia ahead of the curve when it comes to this stuff,
Like
man.
actual six head level
Yeah, I
stuff
have not
already.
seen anything remotely close to that, but that is
Yeah.
cool. I think people here are still like putting multiples of like plushies or whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So you've gone
but
through the phone strap thing. You're now
yeah,
in the Labubu phase. That's gonna be the
I
next one.
didn't pick that. It was gifted to me, and
Yeah.
I am more about like showing appreciation to my friends than just
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, and then just like throw it away or whatever. Plus, it's cute, doesn't hurt. It's not
Mhm.
super sturdy, like it has come off like multiple times because it's just held together by a safety pin. So
Yeah.
I will
Wow.
probably retire him, yeah, at some point. It's cute. It's like the breed of my dog, except it has like the South Korean Jeju Island, kind of
Yeah.
orange
Yeah.
hat, sauna hat or something, and it
Yeah.
has a little
Yeah.
bag, so you can EDC into this. But yeah, it's just
That's
held
really
together
cute
by a
though.
safety pin,
Yeah.
and it's stained indigo all over now. So just because I wear it in
Thanks,
my
Raw
jeans.
Denim.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, so nothing really new there on the EDC front in terms of gear. But honestly, like I haven't been going out and doing too much that would
No.
necessitate a bunch of that stuff. So the knives I
The
basically only use now that I'm like back into volunteering. So
Yeah, the main knife I've been using is still my trusty Riot utility blade, just for
hmm
cutting boxes. And because I've been moving,
yeah,
that's been the majority of my entire May. 3 weeks out of this entire month has been nonstop moving back and forth, plus errands, plus building permits, and
yeah.
moving permits and repairs and refurbishings and stuff, which probably is a good segue on why I moved. We could probably
Yeah,
talk
so
about
yeah,
why
we
we've
can
been
wrap
gone.
up the pocket check, and then we'll move into our sponsored segment if we had one. So notably, there won't be an ad read in this episode of Carried Away, and I think it's safe to say and announce now,
Yeah,
after some silence of like working through things, but
yeah.
everydaycarry.com is no longer owned by and supported by Ridge. So
Mm,
they used to be the parent company. Um, Past 2 months have been working out a new setup, a new situation. But basically, Mike and I are no longer with Ridge as of April. So that's why you saw there was like not much content going on. And then they were cool enough and chill enough to like work out a deal with me so that EDC could come back into my hands as the original owner, in a way that I was able to, you know, uh, handle, I guess, or
yeah.
pull off. But now that you know that, like, they're not keeping the lights on. It's like pretty much all me and then the work that we do here. So
Now we
it
can
is,
talk all the. No, just
yeah.
kidding.
That's why I'm using a different wallet. Just so yeah, EDC is back in my hands. It's independent. Right now, my editor and Mikey are kind of doing this at the homie rate, because, yeah, we don't have backing by a company in that sense. So,
Yeah,
um, what that means for the future of EDC, I don't know, but at least I have control over it. And
yeah,
we'll just see where it goes. So
yeah,
in the meantime, like, I would like to say that Mikey and I had a very restful break because we haven't had a real break in what, 10 years or whatever.
yeah.
But why don't you tell me how that went, because we honestly we haven't caught up that much in the
No,
past couple
no.
months either.
Yeah. So being totally frank, yeah, we got things ended kind of abruptly early in April. It was kind
Yeah.
of we were kind of floored by that, and the whole of April was kind of processing that. And um, I had already been planning on moving um, prior to that happening, but that just accelerated everything like instantly. Like
hmm
the day we were told that that was happening, I had to start the paperwork like that day,
yeah.
just to make sure that our next rent check wasn't check cashed in by our landlord, and just make sure that we had all of the things in motion for us to move our entire to move everything basically. S-
Yeah.
Um, Fortunately, the distance between the place we moved from and to, we moved back to our old place, so our first condominium here in Cebu. It's not that far. It's only like 5 kilometers. We had the vehicle to move a lot of stuff. There's a lot of moving services now. We had some really really fast carpenters who were able to remodel and refurbish everything that we needed fixing from this old place. So it kind of
Hmm.
feels like new. It kind of feels a bit more homey, and the past, yeah, like I mentioned off um before we started, the whole entirety of May was just focusing on the move and just all of the errands. Moving
Yeah.
sucks. I've moved
Yeah, dude. I'm
seven
sorry.
times in the past 11 years. I'm moving like every other year on average,
Uh huh.
and it sucks. But there is a bright side to it. I really got to put all of my EDC and carry systems to use, just because of the whole having to be efficient about moving stuff and packing and unpacking and that
Uh
whole
huh.
process over and over and over. Having to do so many errands, so I had to use all of my bags. And the most important thing, which has been the point of uh, the main focus that I've been trying since last year, is just the reduction of stuff, because we were
Yeah,
moving from a
dude.
bigger place to smaller place. We are losing like 2.5 rooms worth of stuff, and just that freedom of allowing ourselves to like, let's let this piece of furniture go.
Yeah.
We'll figure out how to Tetris our stuff into the cozier place, and it's worked out surprisingly. We're maximizing so much of our space while still
Hmm.
keeping things fairly humane and still having a lot of space. I'm in kind of in our living room right now, but
Yeah.
I did lose my office. But since we're recording off hours, I'm able to do that in while the wife and the dog are sleeping in another room. I'm still completely insulated, and the sound is actually better in this
Yeah.
living room than in my old office. But the main focus there was really the discarding of all of the excess and just kind of fresh start.
Well
Because
done.
yeah,
Like a real
because
EDCer.
yeah, just realize it made me realize a lot of stuff, like letting go of a lot of hobbies, not just out of necessity, but also the mental load. Like you said, we haven't had a break in so long, and that really made me focus on on rest and on the stuff that really makes me happy, or that like really makes me more relaxed, or like get through the day in a more less burdened way. And I
Yeah.
realized that that's just letting go of so many hobbies and letting go of so many stuff that was holding me back and making it difficult for me to be more present, making it more. I don't want to move again with so much stuff. Like the after we moved, I kept on thinking I want my entire life to be able to fit in my EDC bags plus one balikbayan box. That's it.
Yeah.
I don't want to move with so much stuff anymore. And it's really made me feel so much better once I started discarding so much stuff, giving stuff away, selling stuff, and just having fewer things to worry about in the
Yeah.
move. Yeah.
Dude, I had very similar thoughts, and I think I'm going to be in a very similar place. But just a quick cultural note to the people who aren't Filipino or Filipino American: a balikbayan box is like a standardized big
Yeah.
ass box that you put goodies in and send back home,
Yeah.
right?
It's
Okay,
like
so anyway,
4 by 5 um foot box, brown
yeah,
box.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Surrounded by mostly Filipinos, filled with spam and towels and stuff like that.
Uh
And
huh.
Irish Spring soap.
Stuff from Costco. Yeah.
Stuff from
So,
Costco.
dude, I was just thinking that this morning actually. Uh, I think I wrote down in my journal about like goals for the rest of the year was like reduce my belongings by at least 50%, something like that. Right.
Yeah.
And to your point about letting go of certain things, like certain hobbies and stuff, there is an aspect of like your identity wrapped up in that. Right. And it is kind of hard to accept that. Like, for example, I have so much stuff that I collected from like video games when I was really into video games, and like stuff from modding and all that kind of stuff. And then I might just have to accept that like I'm not a gamer anymore. Like
Mm.
I don't really play games like that. I don't really care about like being super neurotic about having everything pristine, brand new in box that's like archived. I don't really care about that kind of stuff anymore. And
Yeah. Yeah.
what letting that stuff go does is it just gives a lot of both physical space and mental and emotional space to let in new things and experiences. I am such a nostalgic person, and I'm starting to realize that like that might not be serving me very well either,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Like it's harder to look forward and like be open to new things if we're like, the what is our joke on the show? Like new is bad, old is good, or something.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
maybe we got that wrong. I don't know. So I've been thinking about reducing a lot of my stuff. I'm probably gonna have to move at some point too, just because like people might not realize this, but this whole EDC operation, it doesn't like bring in tons of dough. We're doing a lot of this, or at least I've personally, like, to be honest now, because we're not under a parent company or whatever. I do a lot of this just for the people that tune in and the community, the people in their Discord, the people that need
Yeah.
help, that ask questions, that are looking for friends,
Yeah.
because personally I don't need like to have all the latest and greatest gear sent to me and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So it is interesting to me, and I do like the design and all of that stuff, but more and more, especially lately, and hopefully it's reflected in the content, I like discussions about how we use the gear, how it brings people together, how they use it, what it says about them, and just more about the people and the community, and not so much the gear. And
Yeah.
I think now more than ever, it's even harder to access the gear just because of everything going on. You and me are impacted by it too.
Yeah.
So I can't provide value or entertainment in that way anymore. So this whole sort of bittersweet, unfolding of events lately has kind of given me a lot of space. And if I'm being honest with the audience, like, I don't know what the future of EDC will be like, but I think uh, like if and when, however, we do get back into this or continue this, I think I'll have a different perspective and maybe more things to say and more things to make content about. But I will say right now, the grind that we've been doing of like trying to run it as a really fast growing business that has to adapt to all this stuff, I kind of want a break from that, to be honest. Like it
Yeah.
is quite hard, and it's ever since, and this maybe is a tale as old as time, where you have a passion project, you're really excited about it, you're young, whatever, then you turn into a business, and then it just becomes a
It
business, it becomes
sucks.
work. Yeah, that kind of sucks. So I remember
Yeah.
back when I started this as a Tumblr, it was like, hey, people send us stuff, it's like, what do you think of my EDC, what should I change, like, what do you think is cool? We're doing that again, but like all the stuff in between, where it's like writing like, oh, the top 20 brown suede like wallets to go with your flashlight, like what is that even about? And then like making a bunch of unboxing stuff, like we tried all these different things, right? But I think now, like with a little bit more focus and maybe out of necessity, because I don't have the resources to make as much content as I used to in the same way,
Yeah.
I think I want to focus more on the things I talked about, like the community and the story, and the appreciation for the gear, and not just like how are we gonna buy the latest thing, but really like how does this help people, and how does this help people feel connected. So that's what I'm hoping to do.
There was a dilemma I was posing a while ago where I was like, if we don't have the latest and greatest stuff, it's hard to be part of the EDC hobby because it's intrinsically newer, shiny new thing, right? To be part of the
Mm-hmm.
community. So it's up. I guess it's gonna be up to us to figure out what does it look like when it's not that. When it's
Yeah.
because yeah, like even in the communities I'm part of, in the EDC communities I see, it's all like it's not easy to participate if you're not buying or owning or experiencing the newest thing every single time. You get left behind by the conversation of people who are doing that. It's just like that's just all hobbies, isn't it? And it's really it's difficult because then you start to feel the pressure, you start to feel the FOMO, and it becomes a different conversation altogether rather than becoming something where you're learning and you're figuring things out, and it's a more boring process than showing off something new every single week, right?
Yeah.
So, and the other thing I wanted to mention was like, now that I'm reducing all of my hobbies and now that I'm reducing my possessions, it's starting to get scary to find out what's at the bottom when I've removed all of those.
Oh.
I'm like, a lot of so
Uh-huh.
many things about my personality and about my interests are tied to a lot of different hobbies, like the gaming and the collecting stuff. I've
Yeah.
stopped collecting stuff. I've stopped buying
Yep.
stuff except the absolute essentials. I've had to focus on like super adult things that are super boring and super um tiring and super not fun, and then I don't have any time for hobbies. So what's left? I'm like, it's kind of scary to reveal, like to peel back all of the layers of the hobbies and all of the interests, and having, like you mentioned earlier, a large part of you are is tied to all of those things that
Hmm.
you're interested in. And if you're not interested in them anymore, what gets left behind, right? So that's the thing I'm gonna be trying to figure out moving forward. Now that I've like, dude, I'm just like, um I bought the same shoe like 3 times over because I just like it so
Yeah.
much. It's such a
Yeah.
dad,
Yeah.
it's such a dad move now. I bought three of the same Atwood tool just because I didn't want to lose anymore for the rest of my life. Um, I've come to realize that some hobbies are really not for me. Like, it was really illuminating when I really thought about it, and I realized I'm not really into knives. Now that I think about it, after having spent so much and having being such nerding out about knives so much,
Yeah.
I realized that maybe I'm not really into knives. Oh, now I'm stuck with all these knives I'm not using, and just using
Yeah.
my old utility blade and all of that. So that's the whole process. I'm just kind of figuring out as I go along. Now that I have a little bit of a breather from the move,
Yeah.
all of these things are starting to come out, like in the quiet of no hobbies and not participating in any communities because I'm not part of the hobby anymore.
Right.
It's very quiet. It's very quiet, and I don't know what comes next. So that's gonna be the thing I'm trying to figure out.
Well, I am rooting for you in your sitting in the quiet. And I think when you do remove a lot of those layers of your identity as a collector or as a hobbyist or whatever, like I hope you remember that at the very core, you're still a good person with lots of value, regardless of what you own. And I
And
think
there's
that,
always gonna be the fishing boat.
yeah, and that can be said for anyone else who's listening who kind of struggles with the same stuff, because I think about that too. Um, so yeah, really, really interesting place that we're at,
Yeah,
I would say.
the suddenness of it was the really shocking thing, right? Because that just
Hmm.
jump started everything. We had to take all of the systems back to you. You had to figure out
Yeah.
like just the initial shock of, after 10 years of grinding, all of a sudden screeching halt. What do
Yes.
we do
But
next?
so I think you were saying how it's difficult to participate, and like how do we create a space in the EDC content world where it's not necessarily focusing on the latest and greatest. Again,
Hmm.
that is up to, I guess, ultimately me to figure out, and then you guys to help with, and the audience to decide whether or not that's of interest to them. But one thing, and I was thinking this morning, not even in preparation for the show, just philosophically, because I do spend my mornings now just like in reflection. But I was thinking, like, what if I just start my EDC from scratch,
Hmm.
like completely,
That's good. Yeah.
just like totally, because I have all this stuff, which is good, and I know it's good. But then if I tell myself I'm starting over from scratch, it won't be like, oh, I just have this because I've always had it. It will be like, I've always had this because I appreciate X, Y, and Z, and it fits in my lifestyle because this and this, and the aesthetic matches this part of my personality. And then
Yeah.
when you're doing that reflection, it's kind of like an audit, right? You'll
Hmm.
realize that like maybe sometimes like it doesn't make as much sense. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
I was about to put on my what's it called? My Cartier Santos, which is like definitely a luxury watch. I bought this when I visited you for the first time, and it was to celebrate like getting like a fancy job title at a big e-commerce company at Ridge, right? And
Yeah.
then now, like if I'm honest with myself, that was just to signify to others that I had made it. But like
Yeah.
now with us, no longer, being part of that whole operation, that is so fleeting and it didn't mean
Yeah.
anything, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like now the significance of that is up for debate. But at the same time, as a watch itself, it is beautifully designed with like good specs, is just a very good product, right? So now I just have to kind of sift through that kind of stuff for everything I own, and then like everything
Yeah.
I might potentially want to own. There might be things I don't feel I need to carry on a daily basis anymore. Like if you're talking about, oh, I'm not really into knives anymore, and it's like, but I collected all these knives and I got my Grail knives and the balisongs and the fixed blades and stuff like that, and then I just have like sort of a budget knife just on my desk. I have like a whole closet full of like Grail knives for other people, but maybe that isn't what I'm into. And now I kind of have the permission to just admit that and not engage with it, and then move all that stuff on to people that actually want it.
Yeah.
But I think there
Exactly.
was an expectation, like we were talking about, that we were trying to navigate. How do we like stay relevant and look like we're, engaged with our community? But I think, and I hope that there's space that we can do things a little bit differently, especially because I don't want to necessarily make this, whole operation in pursuit of growth and profits. At this point, I just want to make value for people in ways that can't be provided by other creators or companies. And for me, I think that is this type of discussion, this type of space, and this type of community. And if it stays small, it stays small. But I know the people that tune in are really sick, so appreciate them. But yeah,
Yeah.
maybe we move on to what's new, just ironically,
Yeah.
because we just mentioned that's not about the latest and greatest, but
Yeah.
we still haven't broken all our old patterns yet,
Yeah.
and we don't really know the shape of the show. So we could just go talk about some new stuff. So why don't we do that while people kind of uh, chew on what we were talking about, and then I'm gonna start with this is a somewhat new release. This is the Bel Air, now in a clip point variety from Kershaw. And the reason I wanted to bring this onto the show is because I'd done a lot of content around the Kershaw Iridium, the Mini Iridium, and then like all the bug outs and, you know, decas
Bagata
and all of those,
likes.
those types of variants. But because I was so satisfied with the Iridium, I never really asked for or bought a Bel Air, and now I feel like this is a good opportunity to talk about it because there's this clip point variant now. So if people
Hmm.
haven't seen the Bel Air, I would say it's like one of Kershaw's best knives in recent memory.
If I'm not mistaken, it was the first Magna Cut Kershaw that came out. That
Yeah,
was 2024, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah, so it's relatively new,
Hmm.
and this is just a newer variant with the clip point blade, and
And
I
my
just
Carta.
like yeah, funkier, yeah, and it's got the mic handle, like you're saying, um, but besides Magna Cut steel, it's also made in the USA, and then it just has this kind of tried and true design. Um, and
It's so made in
how
the
long is it?
USA, I can't even access the website because it's region locked.
Yeah, but it's just a hair over 3-inch blade,
Yeah,
and then the dual thumb
perfect.
studs, the Duralock, which I liked on the Iridium, and then just like grippy, functional, and it's got the tumbled, what's it called, Magna Cut steel. So top tier stuff, I would say, and not too crazy at $200. So I guess given the pricing of things that come from other countries right now, like this becomes more compelling. And I feel like I called that, by the way, in a previous episode when somebody was like, "Oh, what's going to happen to like all the budget knives?" I was like, "They're not going to be budget anymore. You might as well just buy the made in USA stuff because it's like the same price now." So I
Yeah.
don't know what the rest of the community is doing because I was definitely not knife shopping in the past 2 months.
No.
So we'll see how that's going.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I just wanted to put this on people's radar because when we talk about knife options that is like great value for money, and then everyone kind of reminisces on how that used to be the bug out, and then maybe later the Deca. I think the the Iridium was still compelling, but it's not necessarily the same price tier. That was around $75 on average, I think, maybe 80, depending on like sales and whatnot. But this is closer to double that, but it's Magna Cut, made in
Yeah,
USA, all that
versus
kind of stuff.
D2
Same good
of
design.
the
Yeah,
original Iridium 2, right? Yeah.
yeah. So, any other thoughts on this?
I think right now, somebody was asking this to me recently also. So do we just buy Magna Cut all the time now because it's the so-called top tier, the highest
Hmm.
tier of steel you can get? I would say that in this climate of price fluctuation and the tariffs and all of that, and the value of stuff just out of whack, like somebody's $80 could be somebody's $200, could be somebody's
Hmm.
$500. I think the safest bet would be to go for Magna Cut if you can, but there's a whole like other iceberg right under the very very top. But if you were to
Yeah.
invest in, if you were in an investing mood in the one knife that'll last you for quite a while, I don't think anything is gonna come up to overtake Magna. I think I mentioned this a couple of times. I don't think Magna Cut's going anywhere soon, or it's gonna be overtaken anytime soon.
Oh,
Simply
wait.
because,
Wasn't there that whole like not drama, but like concern about Crucible and the steel and all that kind of stuff?
yeah, yeah.
Or did people
Uh,
figure that out?
I think they
I
figured it
didn't
out.
follow up, honestly. Okay.
Yeah, I know there was some talk also with what was the name of that company that was rolling the steel? There was another company involved besides Crucible, who had the means of creating their
Yeah,
own
yeah, yeah.
version of Magna Cut.
It
But
just wouldn't be
basically,
named. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Um, but my take on it is, recently I've noticed, like, even in the communities, not a lot of people are investing in knives, simply because yeah, like we said, like the price fluctuations and like value for knives is so all over the place right now. It's so hard
Hmm.
to justify paying $200 for a knife when you can get some really good stuff for way less than that. But I think it's still okay. So the point I was trying to make is, it's a good, any Magna Cut knife is a good one and done. If you find
Sure.
something that fits your budget while also fits your the style that you like, it fits the materials that you like, and you get the benefit of Magna Cut, I think it's a good one and done thing. But from like a
Hmm.
collector perspective, there's just so much stuff out there right now. It's like overwhelmingly large amount of choice out there right now. But if you
Okay.
find that one knife that also comes in Magna Cut, I think it's worth splurging just for that, the one knife. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That's the
Okay.
take.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so I want to switch that to, you said you haven't been looking at knives recently. And I think I've asked this before, but is there anything on your radar as far as bladed stuff or edged stuff that you still want to kind of pursue, even though it's not like a huge priority? I have one last
No,
knife
just
that I
the
want.
sale or disposal of my current edge stuff, to be
True,
honest.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have one last knife that I
Uh-huh.
want, which is Magna Cut. I just want to own like one Chris Reeve in my lifetime.
Yeah.
So there is one version of it that's a lefty as well, which is the Umnumzan in glass blasted Magna Cut. It pops up every like
Cool.
8 months or so. So assuming I get employed sometime in the next year or so, and
Hmm.
I have some allowance to save up for it, there's time because the stocks are so erratic. It's so
Yeah.
sporadic. That is the last knife I want to own, and that's kind of like, after taking a look at the market right now, it's just so overwhelming, and I just like don't care for so much of it anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
I just keep reverting back to my trusty utility blade. Yeah, it's just like the last thing I want now as far as knives go,
Hmm.
and I think it's a good spot to like one and done something, end it on end it on a grail, right?
Yeah, yeah. I will say, I just thought that given our circumstances now, where like we it just doesn't make sense for us to look at the higher tier, more, dare I say, luxury options of knives. Like,
Mhm.
I'm being very truthful when it's like I'm good with a budget knife. Like, don't think that budget knives, aren't good at all. But like, they are good. It's just, if you value the luxury aspect as an enthusiast, then like you can do that too.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to reiterate, maybe for myself, that I'm like, you'll be okay if the so-called quality of things decreases. But like, yeah, I'm enjoying my CJRB stuff. So anyway, let's move on to something other than knives. This is a project by Wuben. This is the X4. Right now, at the time of recording, there's maybe 2 weeks left. So by the time that this goes up, there might be less than that available. But it is on Kickstarter, and I'm in the middle of a
Massively,
video.
massively backed,
Yeah, this
massively
thing
overshooting.
crushed it. So, but basically, it is a 1500 lumen rectangular palm-sized light, I guess, with very interesting switch interface and side lights, multiple emitters, and all that kind of stuff. So, if we look at it, it's got the flood and spot with a 1500 lumen max, and then it's got this like 3 mode control system. So how can I explain this? I didn't get the sample, by the way. I asked for one, and they weren't shipping in time for us recording this, or this Kickstarter ending in time
Mhm.
either. But it's kind of like, you can kind of see it here. There's a rotary control. Maybe there's a better
Woo!
photo, actually. Oh, here, okay. So there's a rotary knob for brightness. So you can adjust the brightness, and then there's like the power switch that you actually click it. But the mode selection is not on the rotary, but it's on a up and down kind of slider here with a
Mhm.
lockout too. So uh, not surprising coming from Wuben, because they do have pretty futuristic, innovative lights. I have several of the X series, but I think like the 1, 2, and 3, but not the 4. And then
Do you have one of? Do you have the zero? The zero is pretty cool, also.
oh, sorry, I think it was the 0, yeah.
And I
And then
will
they
say
had
though,
a recent one, the G5, but I didn't get the G5. But the X
I will.
series, I do have.
Yeah, I will say though that Wuben has been doing the square thing for a while. I think the X
Yeah.
Zero was one of the ones that kind of started the trend. Actually, now that I think about it, they had
It
the
was one
one
of the
with the
early.
yeah, they had this little cube looking thing that was really really cute. Top switch. It was a right angle light. Came in a
Mhm.
bunch of materials, and that was one of the very very first. That was the X Zero, and then they came out with a fairly large X1 and X2. The
Yeah,
X3 was nice. The X3 one, the one
the
with
swiveling head.
the swiveling head, magnetic charging. That was really really cool. And now this is the latest one, X4, which is kind of like on trend for a lot of different companies making this kind of like handheld, multi function
Mhm.
rectangle flashlight. So seems like people are responding to to the design. It is pretty
Yeah.
slick. It's got a lot of stuff going on for it. For a fairly decent price. $40 for one of them if you're getting two of them for 87. Yeah,
I
about
guess that's like the
$45
early
each.
bird. Yeah. Oh,
The
that's super
earliest
early
of
bird.
birds. About $40.
Yeah, $45. Um so yeah, I think it's like they're not gonna have like titanium options or anything like that. And
Yeah.
I think it's, yeah, 1500 um 1500 lumens and just one 18650 battery, I believe. So it is like smaller and not as powerful,
Mm-hmm.
but that's fine. And I think this is charging with USB-C in. It doesn't act as a power bank that you might see in other similar lights of this form factor, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, lots of features. Does it have a very crucial feature in the police siren mode? I think
Our
that will
favorite,
determine. Yeah. And it comes in
the
white. That's
most
pretty cool.
in demand feature of all flashlights. Gotta have that
Yeah.
police mode.
I mean, dude, I'm curious if people are like really adopting the rectangular form factor,
Mhm.
because I called that like several years ago, and now it's just like I just see more and more of them. I think it's here to stay.
In the flashlight community I'm in, it's all about the rectangular stuff right now. The big ones, the small ones. Um,
Really, even like
yeah.
in the enthusiast side, because I would think that the enthusiasts are like, no, it
Oh
has
no
to
no no
be
not
circular.
the super enthusiast ones, because the super
Uh huh.
enthusiast ones are nerding out about tints about new emitters recently.
Okay, so they don't
But
care
like
about the
the
battery or the form factor.
no, it's
Uh huh.
the mainstream folks that I see.
Yeah.
Everybody loves like the
Yeah.
rectangular stuff, from the arc felts to like all of the loop gear stuff up, and
Mm-hmm.
now the X4, and especially the
Yeah. There's like
Nightcore stuff.
Workos,
Yeah,
Nightcore, right? Rovivon. Everyone's kind of doing
Imalent has
something like
one
that.
now too. So
Okay.
yeah, everybody's going square. Pretty interesting. What's your most used flashlight? Your phone recently?
No, no. Actually, the flashlights that I do use are not circular, cylindrical. So right
Mm,
there, like as I leave, my valet tray is the Exceed Designs
mm.
uh
The rampant,
tie. What's it called? Rampant.
rampant. Yeah,
Yes, and then in the bedroom where the magic happens is the Loop Gear SK03, just like the
nice.
single cell, the small one. Yeah. And mainly because those have super low light modes.
Mm,
I
yeah.
usually just use things in the lowest light. So that's why like this like, 1500 lumen stuff doesn't really like speak to me. I don't really need that. So I just want something that's like comfortable to carry, lasts a long time, and super low and not obtrusive. So,
I'm still using throughout this entire move, and recently I've been using just one flashlight, which is still the Surefire backup. That's
mhm.
still still the workhorse recently, and
Yeah,
it's especially nice because like you mentioned, it has a low mode. It's still pretty high. 5 lumens is still high, if especially if your eyes are
blinding
adjusted to the dark. Yeah,
enthusiasts. There, yeah,
but it's still the light I grab the most. It's still the most useful light to me. Best form factor. Just replace the tail switch for a better clicky switch.
hmm
But other than that, it's yeah, it's still my favorite light. It's still the most used light I have, especially now during the move and everything. Looking
nice.
into boxes and under the bed, and making sure we didn't forget anything in the move. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's just been the workhorse.
yeah, classic
Cool.
light to do. So
Congratulations, Wuben.
yeah,
Smashing it.
on this campaign.
Smashing it.
Yep. So let's move on to the last piece of news. So this is the Seiko, I don't even SRPL 85. So this is part of the SKX. I guess it is the SKX series, but it's the Seiko 5 SKX. So sometimes called the 5KX, I believe. But this is their newest to the family, and it's not quite a recreation of the SKX that we might in the EDC world remember, like the SKX 007 or something. The
Mhm.
markers are a little bit different, but they're more in line with the predecessor to the SKX, which I believe was like the 7001 series or something. It's like the
It reminds
7000
me of
series.
it reminds me of the 62 Mas,
Oh
the
yeah,
indices. Yeah.
oh yeah, a little bit. So it's not the same kind of like circular markers and pill shaped markers as the
Mhm.
SKX 007, but it is still day date function, 100 meters water resistance. Yeah, it's got the
436 movement.
4R36, right? And it is kind of a big boy, 42.5 mil diameter and then 14 mil thickness. I don't know why they always end up so thick, but the lug to lug is fairly short at 46. So if you have smaller wrists like me, it might work. Plus, diver designs, you kind of want some presence on the wrist for the legibility and just kind of makes sense in that way. So there's a lot of information on this, I would say, with the day date.
The standout for me here, 4 o'clock crown. I really like 4 o'clock crowns,
Uh
especially
huh.
as a lefty. 3 o'clock crowns always pokes me in the back of the hand. I really like 4 o'clock crowns in general.
Mm-hmm.
I also like this new bracelet. They said they brought back kind of like a retro look, but it's a brushed, rounded clasp bezel. Sorry, bracelet. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
like this bracelet style.
Oh, I do. Yeah, like the roundedness to it.
Yeah.
Kind of reminds me of like Jubilee or presidential in a weird
Mm.
way. Just the
I
shape of it.
I'm trying to remember which old Seikos had the rounded, tri-segmented type of bracelet. It's very retro. I know I've
Yeah.
seen it on like older turtles maybe,
Hmm.
had this kind of bracelet, but I like that it's brushed and it's kind of like a bit more modern and rounded, very much more comfortable in the wrist for sure.
Hmm. Interesting that you like the 430 date or the 430 crown though, because a lot of people hate that. I think you're different because, like you said, you're a lefty, and also, don't you wear your watch past your wrist bone?
Yes, I do.
Okay, it's crazy that you
It
just
has
like
to
admit
be.
that freely.
I don't get it, man. I don't get when the watch is like down here. It feels so awkward to me
uh
past the wrist bone.
Yeah, but
It
that's
just
what would prevent you from like poking yourself with the crown if you just wore it down further.
it feels unbalanced to me.
Okay.
It feels like a jacket that's the sleeve is too short. That's what it feels like to me. It's so, I don't know. I get the ick when
Uh
when my watch goes down beyond the bone. I don't know. It's just a thing. I've always ever since I was a kid, I've always had the watch like right up against the wrist and having that secure cuff feeling, as
okay.
if I were incarcerated by the timepiece. I am I'm
Hmm.
just
Prisoner of
slave to
time.
time, prisoner of time,
Yes.
exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So, well, if we're thinking about weird design decisions, I will point out, hopefully, people can get past this, but I kind of can't, is that there's a loom pip at 3 o'clock.
I
This,
hate that. I
yeah,
I hate the little
yeah.
dinkly pip on the three. Why? Just why?
Well, it's so the actual reason, besides to infuriate you, is because I think for ISO certification, I don't even know if this is, but like to be properly dive certified, it needs to have loom at 3 as well. So you can't get around it. Um,
And it's just like with the day date, it's just the right side is so
yeah, it's very
imbalanced to,
unbalanced. Yeah,
uh,
and
at
it's
least,
quite close to the 430. So this whole area, just don't look over here. Just
yeah.
like look over here. This is beautiful on this side.
I know,
Yeah,
right? It
yeah.
just like, it just, there's a bit of sag on the 4 o'clock
Hmm.
side because it's so heavily weighted to that side.
Yeah.
uh, is there are there markers on the rehat, or am I just seeing that?
No, there are. There are. Like this inner chapter ring kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, so
So,
sorry. I thought there was an extra marker like on that edge, but it's just the polish catching
oh
the
yeah, yeah, yeah,
indices.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I thought
yeah.
there
So
was
this has
extra.
that's a good distinction. This has a curved hardlex crystal, and I think if we look at the other SK 5KX series,
Mhm.
um, you'll see that the one that's, I would say, closer to the actual SKX007, if this will load. Um,
Also, this naming convention is driving me crazy. It's SKX series, but it's Seiko 5, but then the code is SRPL. Ah,
Yeah, so that one's different. I'm thinking of the SRP 55.
the dress KX?
No, 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 no. The SRPD 55. I think this looks closer to the
Ah,
SKX
yes,
double
yes.
seven that we know
Yeah,
and
yeah,
love.
yeah. I like this
And
one.
I
I
don't
like this
think
one.
this one has the loom pip there, but it does
Yeah.
have like the circle and pill and triangle markers. And then you can also see uh, the dive bezel is slightly different. It doesn't have the markers all the way
All
around
the way around. Yeah.
to
I
top.
like that.
Yeah,
I
and
always like
then
the asymmetric bezel for me.
yeah, and you don't see that. It doesn't even have a picture of it, but the crystal is flat, so it doesn't have that reflection that you're catching
Right.
before. So yeah, um,
Is that still
so
good
yeah,
value? Do you think stainless
no,
steel plus Hardlex
Nah, dude.
plus.
It's Seiko in
Um,
2025. No, I don't think it's like that great of a value, to be honest.
gosh, yeah,
And dude, I hear it
tough
all the
sell,
time
dude.
in our comments about like, oh, this is the Seiko 5. It's like best for EDC. And like I made that like several years ago, and they're like, oh, you can't get it at that price. I'm like, well, don't get mad at me. Like I didn't set the pricing of these things. Things change. So yeah, I think at around $500, I would just honestly, I would just get a micro brand that uses like
Exactly.
Seiko
Yeah.
parts or something. Like I would love like something from Laurier at $500. So it's yeah. So that's that. I think that's gonna wrap it up for our news segment. Why don't we
A
move
kind of
on
awkward
to
news segment. Stumbling through the
yeah,
news
we're
segment.
kind of rusty, you know. We're just
Yeah.
looking at stuff. So why don't we move into the Q&A that we have not prepared for at all? So this will be fun. But
Mm,
first, I do want to give a shout out to some of the people on Reddit on the main EDC thing because they were asking like, "What's going on?" That's like one of the questions they're saying since March 31st of this year, EDC.com hasn't shown any updates, and they're like, what's going on. And I had to chime in because like I don't want to leave people, you know, hanging too long, but they can't really say much.
speculating.
Yeah, because we're still kind of in the process of wrapping everything up and handing everything over. But yeah, I did just say like stay tuned, and then everybody was very supportive and appreciative. So shout outs to those
Wow.
people.
The Brainsplode account making an appearance once again.
No,
Brainsplode
uh,
is back on Reddit.
pe- people don't need to know about that. They're probably gonna see like my outfits or like Splatoon 3 highlights or something. Um, okay, so why don't we jump into some questions here? Is there anyone that you wanna start with?
Let's do a gotcha on it. Just roll the dice. Let's
Um,
answer something that looks really interesting.
how
Old
about
Man
this
of the
one?
Sea
Yeah,
has
Old Man of the
been,
Sea. Shout outs to you because asked a bunch of really interesting questions, and I can't go through all of them, but
but they're all
because a
good.
lot of other people, yeah, did ask questions. But we'll start with yours. So, Old Man of the Sea asks, "What's one thing you wish more people knew about EDC as a hobby?"
Let me think about this. Do
Okay,
you
I'll
have an
let you think
answer?
about it. Yeah,
Yeah.
for me, it's uh we're not all crazy. Okay, that's mainly it, because a lot of people will see a picture of an EDC from Reddit or Instagram or whatever, and then they're immediately gonna judge that person based on what they see and what little they understand about these objects in front of them. Right? There
Mm,
is so much behind the objects. Not all the time, right? Sometimes people just put objects that look cute together or whatever or aesthetic, and then they'll take a photo and like, yeah, I'm cool. That's not everybody, but there are some people and they have like real stories and like there's a real use for them and they're super reasonable. And the other aspect of it is like, no, you don't need all of this stuff all the time, and it doesn't have to strictly be utilitarian, and it doesn't have to be every day in only your pants pockets.
yeah.
There's yeah, like some people get fixated on just like the semantics of it, and they're trying to apply like all these rules for it to count or not. But I'm hoping with this channel we kind of remove that sort of gatekeeping energy and then come uh, look at this type of content and engage with these type of people with from a place of curiosity rather than immediate judgment or this is foreign to me and I don't understand, therefore it's cringe. So that's what I would like to say. I would hope that more people knew that EDC is basically more than the gear, right? It's not only about the gear, and there's a lot that goes behind it with some nuance, and it
Mm,
depends on the person. It's very personal, and I think we could all take a little time to try to understand who that person is when we see stuff like that. So
yeah.
that's
There
probably what I would say.
I heard a recent quote that's kind of like another quote as old as time. Like a watch isn't just a watch, and you can apply that to pretty much the entire EDC um hobby as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
Like a knife isn't just a knife. Sometimes it's got a story of a grandfather being passed to a father being passed to a son, just like a watch would. Just like a knife. Sorry, just like yeah, exactly, just like a watch would.
Yeah.
Sometimes a person is a traveler, so their bag means a lot more to them than it would mean to like any regular other person.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Sometimes a person's hobbies will define them needing a flashlight, or they walk dogs at night like I do, or they do caving and stuff as a hobby. And flashlights are such an important thing to them, just like shoes would be to a runner. So there's what you said was exactly right. Like sometimes the what you see on social media is so not representative of what it actually means to the individual,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
because of the noise of everything as part of the hobby. And the whole, like I was mentioning at the start, like the whole consumerist and the collection and the FOMO aspect behind it is just so much noise
Hmm.
compared
But
to
it
the
does
actual.
exist. Don't get me wrong. That stuff
Yeah,
does exist. People do engage in EDC, and I would say like, it's kind of like a lot of consumerism, but
yeah,
they have the right to do it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So there is truth at the source of it all for everybody.
Hmm.
It's different for everybody, and value especially is going to be different for everybody. One person's $500 backpack is another person's just $500. I bought a Louis Vuitton for like four
Oh.
thousand stuff. And so yeah, so the value, the stories are going to be different for everyone, and the value is going to be different for everybody. And yeah, it's all that's what we're trying to find now, like what the real meaning and the real utility behind the stuff. And I think, yeah, I'm just gonna jump in on your answer. And
Okay.
yeah, just basically there is a story behind all of it, and it's not always bad, it's not always good. And yeah, but there is
Hmm.
always a story behind everything.
Okay. Again, we had to start with more of a philosophical question. Why don't we move into something more pointed and practical? So Tom Yale 666 asks, "What's a good affordable watch with an analog face and a fabric strap for an EDC?" Instant answer for me.
Okay.
Maybe we have the same one. 3, 2, 1. Bertucci. Okay, nice try.
I
I'm
was
sure
I
we were
was
thinking the
about
same thing.
I was waffling between Bertucci and Timex, but then I also
Oh,
thought
okay.
I was also, because there's a lot of good Timex stuff. Timex is kind of like the new Seiko, in a lot of
Hmm.
price brackets. I think, um, especially like there's titanium options and with sapphire around the
Yeah.
$500 mark as well. So, but for good and affordable, Bertucci is a good, because a lot of them are under $100,
Yeah.
and you
That
get a lot of, yeah,
yeah.
stainless steel plus NATO strap plus great size and sapphire for a lot of them. Yeah, that's a really really good answer. I think Bertucci's a. I'm trying to remember when the easy answer was like Seiko SNX.
Yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
the Seiko Field Watch was like the instant answer before.
Or like the SNK 805 or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think
You
Bertucci is
can't
not
find those
taking that.
anymore. Yeah.
No, no, no.
Yeah. So I think Bertucci's most affordable options um, will be quartz, but
Mhm.
you're asking for affordable analog face fabric strap for an EDC. So to me, quartz is better for EDC. So that kind of checks all the boxes. Hopefully, it's like to your taste. Aesthetically, it is more of like the military field watch type with the Arabic numerals, and like there is a lot going on it. Um, but I think you can't really go wrong. And there's some charm about Bertucci watches. I don't know what it
Mhm.
is, but I've one somewhere
They
in
have a little
the box.
niche.
Yeah,
They have a little niche going on.
yeah, and even aside from their affordable more affordable options, they do have like titanium cases. They have automatic movements and stuff like that. So if
Yeah,
you like the design language, you could also go a little bit higher in price point for
within the
more
same brand. Yeah,
performance and material and stuff. Yeah, so that would
cool.
be my answer. We can move on to another question. I know people have been so curious, so we're gonna try to answer as many questions as we
Yeah.
can here. So Victor Manuel Valencia Verde, and it cuts off, asks, what are some good EDC to uncentralize from your phone? I think this is a really interesting question, just
You've been
because,
working on this for a while.
yeah, there's interest in it. And man, maybe I should just make like an actual video about it. Um, but essentially, remember, like our phones were originally just meant to call people, right? So that
Yeah,
we can
not
reach
even
people,
text. Not
not
even
even text.
text.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just, yeah. So then all that changed when the Fire Nation attacked and Steve Jobs released the iPhone, what, 2007? Okay, that's not entirely true because we did have things like Blackberries, um, and
Nokia. We
other,
were a Nokia nation.
yeah, like you could text on Nokia and stuff like that. But when the iPhone came out, that combined the iPod, which is a music player, and then it also had stuff like web browser and maps and a camera and all that kind of stuff, right? So essentially now the landscape is the phone doesn't really do what it was meant to do. I think a lot of millennials and younger don't even like calling on the phone anymore. So they'll use their phone for everything else, but they need to have it. So I think it's kind of a understandable question, like why you would want to uncentralize from your phone, because
Mm.
the original purpose of it. Imagine if you had a pocket knife. You're like, I want something that will cut stuff, and then like over time they start adding like a flashlight to it and a pen, and then like it just becomes this whole thing, and like it's addictive to like fidget with, but then it's not good at cutting the thing anymore, and like you don't want
Becomes
to
a
cut
jack.
things anymore. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's just like what the heck happened. That's sort of the situation with phones. So
Yeah.
I personally like just taking the main functions you would use from a phone and then investing in dedicated devices or tools that provide a better experience of that thing in a more dedicated sense. So you can really engage with the actual task at hand. So for me, that might be, I actually have a bunch on my desk right now, actually. So I have like one that's just a music player only, has no internet attached to it. Then I have this, which is basically a phone, but I have it set up in a way that it's just an e-reader. So like just like reading articles and books and comics and stuff. So
Mm.
consuming that type of content. And then last is like a point and shoot camera. But I know that this adds a bunch of bulk, right, to your carry. But if you are into photography and you like the artistry of it and the art form, right? Um, and you're into music and really enjoying the music and not just having it on as background noise, and you're really into whatever you're reading and you don't want to be distracted by all these other apps or temptations that are by design there, right? Um, then I think it's worth carrying. And I do carry all three of those things. Maybe not the exact ones all the time, but definitely like something to read, um, something to take pictures with, and then sometimes something to listen to music with or just like audio content. So
Yeah, just
I
really
think
think
those are good
about,
places to start.
yeah, think about also like what functions on your phone you're actually using a lot as well. So yeah, camera is a good one. Music, of course. Ebooks is a nice a hobby. Music player, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Pen and paper.
Yep,
If
note
you're
taking.
note taking, so that's another aspect of EDC you can look into to uncouple it from the phone. The tough one there is just like the communication and the internet stuff, and but I think it's a worthy sacrifice of just keeping your phone in your pocket and not like bombarding yourself with doom scrolling and social media and just like
Yeah.
enjoy other stuff. Yeah.
And and I will say there are so many other ways to uncentralize from your phone that don't require you to buy more stuff,
Yeah.
right? Like there are just like apps or like behaviors you can start putting into practice,
Yeah.
that will sort of help take you out of using your phone in that way so
Yeah.
much. Uh, some very quick free things I can think of, like you turn grayscale on your phone. It makes it a little bit less um, interesting to look at, so you might not use it as much. If assuming that this is like the problem of like quote unquote phone addiction or whatever. So
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
something you can do there, and then just like removing apps that you find yourself constantly opening. You can check that on screen time, like the first app used after pickup. That will kind of lead you to like where you're compulsively going.
Yeah.
Taking a break from your social medias, log out of them, deactivate if you need to, whatever. If those end up being problematic for you, and then
Turning off
um,
notifications is a good one.
oh, I've been doing that for years
I
now.
have I've had my phone on silent for like 10
Mm-hmm.
years and notifications that only come through are just like important emails and stuff. So that's really a nice mental load off. I don't get notifications from like messaging apps and stuff. So
Yeah.
I look at those when I absolutely have to look at them, but I don't get bothered by them. I hate that. I hate like seeing a message and then just like like a the
Uh-huh.
red dot on it. It's annoying.
And
But
then now that you said that, I no longer resent you for not replying to me in Slack when I
I'm
pinged you
sorry,
the other
I
day.
wasn't logged in. I didn't realize I wasn't logged in on my phone.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't
No,
real
that's
because
good.
yeah,
That's good.
yeah.
That's a tip for Victor Manuel here. So, yeah. And one thing this made me think of is just like I was kind of thinking back to like when the before the iPhone came out. We used to sit down at our desk and use a computer, and then when you got up, that was it. There's like no more internet. It's just crazy. That's like always with us. So that's a whole other thing. But hopefully, those give you some ideas. Music player, e-reader,
Pen and
digital
paper,
camera,
camera.
yeah, pen and paper,
Maybe add
dedicated flashlight.
a retro console in there somewhere. Now that the
Yeah,
market is
true.
very
Gaming, stuff
mature.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see a lot of that gaming as well. You know what I don't see very often? Calculators. Nobody's out here doing math, I guess.
Chat GPT. Why do you need math for?
You know what? There's also a bunch of like Chat GPT assistant enabled devices now too. Personally, I would just rather just use the phone, but I've
I
seen a
know.
bunch of
Yeah.
those. I think maybe in like several years those will be more compelling. Maybe Apple will make something dedicated to that besides the phone. I don't know. That'd be crazy if they made an
Oh,
iPod Shuffle that was like Apple AI or something.
we're getting there. Meta glasses are now starting to incorporate AI as well. So now it can detect stuff that you're looking at while you're
Uh
wearing the glasses, and then live translation is getting there. So
mhm.
soon we won't even have to learn Korean. It would just be auto
Uh-huh.
translated for us.
Yeah.
We'll live to see the day we don't have to learn
Yeah.
another language.
It would be
That would
sick
be
if I could
awesome.
like sit back in a chair and then just download like how to do kung fu, and then I'd just
Yeah.
wake up and I'm like, I know kung fu. That would be
You
sick.
know jujitsu? Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, okay. Are there any more questions we want to answer here? Um, how many did we get through? Like three, I think, a philosophical one, and like two pragmatic ones. Uh,
Mhm.
I think there will be more questions maybe in the comments and stuff as I make more Instagram stories. That's where you can send these questions, by the way, either
Mhm.
on Instagram, so at Everyday Carry on Instagram, and I'll post a story hopefully once a week. I'm having to get used to like being the one that like posts everything now. Now that the old team is disbanded, but um, yeah, you could reach us there. You can leave a comment in the comment section of the YouTube video that you're watching this on, maybe. And you could also send us an email. But there is one last question that I kind of want to address. So, Old Man of the Sea asks, what is the most unusual task you've used your knife slash EDC for? And I'm not actually interested in this answer, but rather I see something very often
Okay.
on the internet, which is an unusual task, but it's
Okay.
people using their knife to lock a bathroom door stall or like a bathroom stall shut.
Just shoving
Have
it
you seen
into
this?
the
Yeah.
yeah, shoving it
Because for
into the
some
lock.
reason the lock is broken, and then they're like, "Oh, my time for EDC to finally pay off has come." And then they just like put their knife tip in there and like use it to lock the door shut. Have you ever done that, or would you ever do that?
No, I will just look for a different bathroom, man.
Yeah.
So-
Right.
I'm sorry, but I'm just like, if that is the difference between me feeling secure in supposedly a safe space, I'm just gonna
Uh-huh.
go to a different bathroom. I gotta hold it
Yeah.
in. If
Dude,
I
I
don't
don't
feel
need that
safe,
much Reddit karma. Yeah. I don't need to do all that for Reddit karma.
yeah,
It is
yeah,
kind of funny though. But it
it's
yeah, it reminded me of this other well, somebody made a response to this, like kind of a meta meme response where they're like, I need to carry one of those like sliding bolts now in their EDC and like a screwdriver instead of screws, so they could just repair the actual door itself instead of like using their knife for that,
oh, that's so
because you
meta.
risk
That's really
like
cool.
the break, or what's it called, the tip breaking off and stuff like that, right? Because it's kind of like in a prying position. But
Yeah.
the other thing I think about often is when I need to use the bathroom and then for some reason the lights turn off or don't work, and I will like tail stand my flashlight to do that.
Yeah.
That's probably the closest thing to like a poop EDC I have. You know?
Hero Clip for me is the bathroom EDC because
Ah,
yeah, just in general, I like having the Hero Clip on me just to keep stuff off the ground because
uh-huh.
stuff here is I don't want to
Yeah.
put my bag down in
Like
a
bag
like a
or
bathroom
jacket.
floor. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but unusual, oh gosh, I don't really find myself in unusual situations. Um Probably the most unusual um the most unusual thing I would say is like trying to use a flashlight one-handed while also trying to pick up poop from the dock. I mentioned this a couple of times that
With your knife?
no, with a flashlight, with a flashlight.
Ah, okay. Well,
That's
this
the
is
most
specifically
unusual.
the knife. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess knife
Oh, sorry.
slash
Yeah, yeah.
EDC.
Knife,
Yeah.
knife. Yeah, EDC, but the knife specifically, nah. I'm very garden variety with my knife. I only use
Hmm.
it for its intended purpose.
Nice. Okay, that was fun. That was a lot of questions. Let's move
Mm,
on to the user submitted photos of their EDCs.
cool.
So we'll start with this one. This is an EDC from at tg.incunabula. Okay, well, I don't know. They are a tech professional, a darts player, and I'm gonna botch this, philatelist living in Boston.
Philatelist? Philatelist?
Filipino? Not quite.
Filipino?
No. Uh, I philatelist.
Philatelist?
Well, if you don't know what that means, it's basically someone who collects stamps. So there's no
I
stamps
used to
here.
do that. I used to do that
Oh,
because
really? So you should
my dad
know.
was a stamp collector. Yeah,
You should know how to pronounce it.
I didn't know that that was what it was called. I was just a stamp collector. I didn't
Oh,
know the
okay,
fancy
okay.
name for it.
Well, they said this is their work loadout, and it covers all the bases. And um, to get that done, they have the Conklin All American pen there on the left, and then up top is a Chris Reeve small Sabenza, and it's engraved with like a squirrel or something. I don't really know what that is. It's kind of like a squirrel that has a sword in it. And then
And nuts.
yeah, and then it's got a Satchel and Page wallet, and then the Olight i3T EOS, so that's like a classic flashlight, and then the Christopher
Classic.
Ward C63. I believe it's a. Oh, I thought it was a GMT. It's not. Oh wait, yes, it is. Yeah, it's a GMT. I think the handset is kind of just like hiding. Yeah, the seconds and the GMT hand are kind of overlapping there, but it is a GMT with a fixed bezel here. So 24-hour bezel. It's kind of like an Explorer, but with a
Yeah,
cool
it's got the
green
Explorer
dial.
bezel.
It's kind of dressy. It's got the 5 link bracelet. So I don't know. I kind of gravitated towards the watch right away. You're probably more looking at the Sabenza.
Speaking of Chris Reeve
Yeah. So two Chris products, by the way, Christopher Ward and Chris Reeve.
and
I wonder
Christopher
what that's
Light.
about.
No, just kidding.
Yeah, the Chris Light.
Chris,
Yeah,
Chris Light.
the Chris Light and the Chris Klin All American fountain pen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I
I
think
think,
this
yeah,
is all you kind of need for an office carry as a tech professional. I don't know how stamp collecting or playing darts would like affect this, but I think all of this can handle a game of darts.
that's what's making the wallet bulge. See, the hidden darts and the extra stamps is
Stamps
got
and stuff. Yeah, it's
it's
in
got
there.
it in there. But yeah, like you said, covered literally all four bases. You got your time, you got your slice, right, light,
Hmm.
all around. Really classic picks. One thing I want to say about the watch, the Christopher Ward logo is one of my favorite watch logos. It's just
That
so
is a crazy take.
really, I really like it. I don't know why.
Everyone hates Christopher Ward logos, but I don't
Oh,
know if you knew, but it used to say Christopher Ward like
I know. Yeah, I
written out,
remember the old one.
and then they changed that.
I like the symbol one,
But
but
personally, I like this too. And if you
mm,
can't really tell, it's kind of hard to see from this, but it's like the
two Swiss
yeah,
crosses.
It's like the Swiss flag and the English. I forget, but it's like two flags in the negative space that kind
Yeah,
of like speak to where it's made, but where the brand is from, like heritage wise.
yeah,
So it kind of makes sense, and it just
kind
doesn't
of.
say Christopher Ward on it. So
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think
I
that's
I
cool.
like
But
it
for
when I like logos over word marks
yeah,
generally.
yeah, but for me, I don't really
The
like the
tri-
Trident
no, I don't.
seconds counterweight.
That
Yeah,
looks kind of weird. Just
yeah.
like like a claw sticking out from the back of
Mhm.
the second hand. But
But some
I
people
mean,
like it. The
yeah,
rest of the hands I think are really nice, really well
yeah.
done.
I
I
like
like
the
the hour
big.
and minute.
I like the hour hand. Yeah,
Yeah,
and Christopher Ward watches. I just like the design language as a whole. I feel like it's they're are they considered a microbrand?
they're in a
Kind
weird
of mid
space.
tier, right?
Yeah, they're like slightly above micro brand, I would say.
They're fairly mainstream, aren't they? But they still
They're
kind of have like,
they're getting there. It's not
yeah.
like they're just using a straight up like Solida whatever. I think it's like kind of specced up for them, and they have other watches that have very interesting designs. Like they basically got a lot of attention from their I want to say it's a minute repeater, the bel canto. It's like the thing that like chimes. Maybe it's not
Hmm.
a minute repeater, but it has like the a sonic element to it. And then they also have like a really nice moon phase that they do. So like really interesting stuff. And
Hmm.
their designs are um, quite different. I don't know how else to explain it, but this one is definitely more of like a Rolex
Standard
Explorer
stuff.
2
Yeah, yeah.
GMT kind of thing with the fixed bezel, 24-hour bezel, but in like the cool green dial, which I think is cool. And it's like, I think 38 millimeters, something like that. So it's fairly proportionally well suited for a lot of wrists. And then it's a little bit dressy on this 5 link bracelet.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it would work well in an office setting.
And another note I want to make about this whole carry is like all of it is fairly well used. You can see that the anodizing on the stud and the Chris Reeve
Mm-hmm.
is fading from use. You got a lot of snail trails. Like this is not a baby knife. But I also want to say I'm not sure this is a Sebenza. Isn't that with the
In
design
Kosi?
could be an Nkosi because of the cutout with it like kind of like the jagged cutout.
Yeah, yeah. These parts,
That's not
right?
a Sebenza. Yeah, that's not a Sebenza cutout, is it? Could be. It has a Sebenza 21 hole in the handle,
Uh-huh.
but it could be an Nkosi or one of the other variants. I'm not familiar. I'm not that familiar with all of the Insigno, Nkosi. One of those which has yeah, the that pattern on the cutout, and that
Oh, I think the Nkosi is more aggressive of like the choils. So it
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah,
might be a
might be the
Sabenza.
Nkosi. Yeah.
No, I don't think it's that. It might, I don't know. I will just say to the audience what they wrote, and they wrote Sabenza.
True,
So
true.
I'm
Yeah,
just gonna believe them.
classic fountain pen and also very well used Olight, another classic as well. The only note is, would you change? What would you change anything here? I would probably just go for like a more lightweight wallet, maybe. I hope you're not sitting on that.
Oh, Um, I don't know if I would really change anything. I could see like, and this is just like peak aesthetic like changing at this point, but I could see like the green version of this going well with
Mm,
the
yeah, good
dial of the
choice.
watch. And then
Yeah.
if you wanted to dress this down and make it like more casual, you could probably get sort of a matching leather to go with your wallet as a strap for
Oh
your
yeah,
watch. And
leather
yeah,
would go well with that. Yeah, true with the
and then
green.
maybe adds like just a leather loop here for better retrieval and
I
just kind
like
of
those
solidify
suggestions.
that. So those are all kind of like vaguely functional but like mostly
Yeah,
aesthetic, to be honest.
yeah. But I
Yeah.
think it would. Yeah, that's. I really like those suggestions. Actually, I think they would just bring the
Hmm.
whole thing home. Yeah, but you don't
Yeah.
have to. You don't have to.
Yeah.
No pressure.
So
We great choices all around. Either way.
yeah, so thanks so much to TG in Boston for sharing this. I wish you perfect scores in all your darts games and the rarest stamps. come your way. So next, we have this loadout. This is from the Doctor 94 or the DR 94, also known as Gustavo. So they said they're from the Midwest, northern Missouri, and they work in a kitchen. And their EDC wasn't anything really planned. It's just what they actually carry and use every day. So they said, I love listening to music and love high quality audio. So currently carry a quality music player filled with high quality FLAC files. So that's like lossless, uncompressed audio. Sorry, it is compressed. I'm just gonna stop speaking, adding more commentary there. High quality FLAC files and a pair of custom in-ear monitors for the best quality and comfort on the go. And I started carrying the notebook and pen to help me remember things throughout the day because I tend to be busy. And if I don't write things down, I will forget. And the Vita is fully modded and used for on the go gaming. And I always carry a bandana either as a headband or tied around my belt loop as an added rag throughout my day. So let's just quickly go through all the items here. So up there, you have the PlayStation Vita. That's a handheld gaming console that I think is ahead of its time. When I like compared that to the Nintendo Switch, like I feel like they came out at the same time, but I think the Vita was like 5 years prior. Then you have the Civivi Mini Praxis folding knife, and yeah, then you have a Garmin Venue Square 2 or SQ2 smartwatch, and then a field book and handmade leather wallet cover. So that's very cool. The Lamy Safari fountain pen with the mango color and an extra fine tip. And then the Surfon's Music F20 player paired with the Ultimate Ears UE 18 Plus in-ear monitors. Some really nice gear there. And then a Mr. Bandana. So that's a small brand made in the USA. So yeah, this is a good example of what we were just talking about earlier about the uncentralizing from your phone, right?
Yeah.
So you get you get your gaming, your music, your note taking, all of that, but more dedicated experiential forms of that. Mm-hmm. And personally, I also appreciate the industrial designs of things, especially pocketable things and things to carry with and like interface with your hands, and the ergonomics of things like that. So that's why I love fountain pens and like mechanical keyboards and stuff like that, and then music players, in-ear monitors, earphones, headphones, and handheld gaming devices. One thing that is kind of funny though is I was gonna say probably wouldn't EDC a fountain pen because it's not the most durable, and then like I zoom in here and it's like the barrel is cracked and it's like hanging on for dear life, but like at least they're using that thing. So if I were to make a suggestion, maybe go for a metal bodied fountain pen.
And also, if you think about it, the field book is also creased at that spot. Maybe he put both of them in his pocket and they creased
and then sat on it.
Sat on it somehow.
Like it sat on it right there. Yeah.
Just before sharing it, unfortunately, crack. Oh no. But yeah, a good suggestion of replacing it with something a bit more sturdy. Fieldbook's gonna survive. That's fine, especially with a cover on it. I have a question about the PS Vita though, just to get a little bit nerdy at the end of the show. Would you recommend a modded Vita with a new battery over like the recent wave of modern retro consoles?
Depends on what you want to play, but generally yes.
Is PS Vita good for up until what, PSX or PS2? How far can it go?
I think PSX, and it can play PlayStation. This is super nerdy, but it can play PlayStation, I believe, natively. Nobody cares about this. You can do it via like emulator, so like RetroArch, but I believe PS Vita has backwards compatibility with PSP, PlayStation Portable, which did play PlayStation 1 games like natively. So if you run a PlayStation 1 game through PSP, through PS Vita, it should still be like a true experience, but handheld. I did this for Metal Gear Solid 1, so that's why I know.
But that's you're playing it off of a ROM or an ISO.
We don't have to get into that, but I'm pretty sure it's closer to the actual like hardware experience, at least based on official hardware versus using an emulation software like RetroArch to get through all that. Anyway, I
Cool.
think Sony industrial design alone makes it worth over something like an Anbernic or whatever, right? Like
Fair, fair,
those
fair.
like
Yeah.
bajillion in one kind of
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
consoles now,
Fair, fair.
because the this thing is built so well. Like
It
so
is.
just
Yeah.
Sony stuff from the 2000s, just my favorite. So I don't know. That's my personal opinion. I think the Vita is kind of slept on. I would recommend visual novels if you're into that. That's like a very chill sort of thing to play handheld.
Mhm.
You could just kind of like pause it and put it back in your pocket. So that's what I like to play. But yeah, do you have any other notes for this one?
No, like you said, nice decoupling straight from the topic from earlier. Really great
Mm-hmm.
choices of gear as well. Talking about nice, inexpensive knives. I think the Praxis is Civivi's most popular knife, if I'm not mistaken.
I
It's
wouldn't be
it's
surprised.
it's like I've one of their ultimate bestsellers, both the main size and the mini size. It's a really great full bellied drop point simple flipper. Not surprised that it's super popular. It's also very fairly inexpensive, and it comes in a
Mm-hmm.
tons of colors and, like you said, two sizes. Great choice of hardware. Nice use of ultimate ears plus the flax, just getting all of that good quality to your
uh-huh.
ears. Yeah, but other than that, no other notes, and hopefully you get a repair for your pen replacement sometime soon, and let us know what you're playing on the Vita as well. I'm
Yeah.
curious.
One last
Yeah.
thing I wanted to note: when people think about like fancy headphones or whatever, and they think of
Mm.
in-ear monitors, they might think of just stuff that you can like stick into your ear. I want to call out because this takes serious dedication and is like next level nerdery of like audio enthusiasm. But these are custom molded in ear monitors. So you have to go to an audiologist to take impressions of the shape of your ear so that they can make a custom housing that fits specifically to your ears so it has the best fit and sound possible to house all these components. And like all of that. So that was me when I was like in college. I went
Did
to
you
an
actually get
audiologist.
the mold
Yeah.
and everything? Yeah.
Yeah, I had old like Shure SE 530s, I think that's the brand. It's like several many years old now, but then
What's
the
yeah.
housing of it broke. So then I went to an audiologist and then I took it to some other company in Florida or something where they would put the drivers back and then make like new channels and acoustics or whatever in a custom shell. And then I
Mm.
had that for a while, and I would use that during college. Um,
Nice.
so I don't know. I like this EDC. It kind of reminds me of like how I used to be over 10 years ago. But yeah, we're in the middle of 2025.
I don't know,
So
man. Old is good, new is bad.
yeah,
It's still
yeah.
kind of ringing true.
I'm happy to see a PS Vita in 2025. I happen to own 3 of them myself, so very cool console. Anyway, thanks so much to the Doctor 94 for submitting this EDC, and yeah, so I think that just about wraps it up for today's episode. And if you made it this far, thank you so much for listening. Please hit the subscribe, share with a friend, and follow us on socials. Oh yeah, by the way, in the 2 months that we were gone, I was able to secure at Everyday Carry on TikTok without the .com. So we are now just at Everyday Carry on TikTok. So we have username parity, I believe, on all channels. So that is very sick.
Nice.
That's a big win. But anyway, if you want to be part of our EDC community, feel free to hop into our Facebook group or Discord server for more real-time discussion with other EDCers. And lastly, if you have any feedback for us or questions you want answered on the show, you can shoot us an email at podcast@everydaycarry.com. Thank you so much for listening to Carry the Way. I'm Bernard.
And I'm Mikey. And thank you for bearing with us while we shake off the
Yeah.
rust. We're figuring this out again.
Yeah. And
But yeah,
until the next one, which neither of us know when that will be.
soon.
Peace. Yeah.
TM.
So
Soon
yes.
TM.
Yeah. Peace.
All right, peace. Bye.